Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Deep Voice Dude. Today, I'm going to talk about 6 things in sports that just don't make any sense to me. I've looked online for answers to these questions, and I've never really found a satisfactory answer. So, if you guys have a suggestion or an answer, leave it in the comment section, and I'll be happy to reply. So, let's get started with. I'm going to give 2 of them that are kind of smaller, and then just small questions I have, and then 4 more large questions that I really just don't understand. So let's get started. My first question is, why do fans think commissioners actually matter? First off, commissioners literally just work for the owner. They're the mouthpiece for the owners. So they're not really making their own decisions. It's not like Roger Goodell wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I think quarterbacks should have more influence in the game." Like, no, that's the owners realizing that quarterbacks are more marketable, so they're telling him to do that. The owners are heat shields for the fans. Another thing a lot of people sometimes argue is that, oh, Roger Goodell, Adam Silver, they're so great because their leagues are popular. I'm like, that the popularity of the NBA and NFL is irrelevant to the commissioner. If you swapped out Gary Bettman, the NHL commissioner, and Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, it's not like Roger Goodell would make the NHL the most popular sport in America. People watch football because it's football. They don't watch football because of Roger Goodell. So my second kind of small question is, why does college football only have, college football is those weekend kickoff games? Why are those only in the Southeast? They're pretty much only in Dallas, Atlanta, or Orlando. And I don't think there's any, even any in Miami. They're only really in those 3 cities. I just never understood, why don't they have games in Indianapolis, or Minneapolis is probably a better example because they have a newer stadium, or Los Angeles, Las Vegas. They're getting new stadiums out there. They could have it there. MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, why not? Ford Field in Detroit, nice stadium. Heck, why not Arrowhead in Kansas City, or Nissan Stadium in Nashville? Though that's the Southeast, but you get my point. It just seems weird that they only play in those 3 cities. I know that college football is a heavy Southeast fan base, but you would think that's even more reason to play outside of that area, just to spread the sport a little bit more. So now my first of the big 4 questions is, why MMA and boxing still use pay-per-view and aren't on regular TV more often, like the major fights? Think about it. The NBA Finals is on broadcast TV, Super Bowl broadcast TV, World Series broadcast TV. Boxing and pay-per-view, their biggest events, behind a $50 to $80 gatekeep. Like, what is that? Why? Oh, I understand it. I guess it makes them more money somehow, even though NHL, NFL, MLB, NBA all make more money. So I don't really get that. You could sell so much advertising and be ridiculous. I think I saw somewhere 15 to 20 million people pirated the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight from February. Like, imagine if that was on Fox. But Fox does boxing, so imagine that was on Fox. That would be insane. One possible argument, I've heard 2 theories. One is that it's too violent. However, they have UFC undercards on ESPN. They have boxing on ESPN and Fox Sports 1. So if that's not violent, then why would the main event be too violent? Another theory is that events could end in a 7, like we just had a fight this weekend between 2 women, and ended in 7 seconds. I mean, yeah, that doesn't really happen in the NBA or MLB. However, my counter argument to that is there are rain delays in those sports, and it's not like they have trouble getting on TV. So I just, 3 times a year, have a big boxing match, or big boxing match on Fox, big UFC fight on ESPN or ABC or whatever. And I just don't. I feel like that would be a better way for the sport to showcase itself, but they're stuck in their old ways. My number 4 question is, why aren't most, if not all, NFL stadiums domed or retractable roof? It's kind of a question about all sports. However, there's a few exceptions, like Lambeau Field, Fenway Park, Wrigley Field. Like, I guess you can't really put a retractable roof on that. And the team's identity is so tied to those venues that you're not going to build a new stadium for them, at least not in the next 50 years. So, but for example, I live in St. Louis. Like, why the hell is Busch Stadium an open roof stadium? First off, it gets really hot in St. Louis. It also rains, not often, but it just rains enough. I just never really understood why they didn't make Busch Stadium with a retractable roof. Another big reason is events such as WrestleMania, the Super Bowl, college football final game, the NCAA men's basketball tournament. All these go to stadiums with either retractable roofs, or domes, like Minneapolis, the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta. They always go to closed roof NFL stadiums. So my main question is why Illinois doesn't? Because if Chicago had a retractable roof or dome stadium, they wouldn't have to bid on WrestleMania. WWE would come to them and beg on their knees to host it in Chicago. Super Bowl would be in Chicago. The NCAA men's tournament be in Chicago like once every 3 years. It'd probably wipe Indianapolis off the map, and I love Indianapolis, but it's not Chicago. So a lot of people in Chicago are like, oh well, we're tough. We play football in the cold. Well, you don't in August and September. Also, it doesn't. Like, oh, football in the snow is so great. Really, well, it's only snows like 1 or 2 games a year, heavy snow, and I just don't just build a roof so you can host other events. So we don't have weather dictating games. It's just you guys have like billions and billions of dollars. Just build a retractable roof already, so every city can host WrestleMania and whatnot. My number 4 question is, why the United Kingdom is so bad at basketball. So in European sports and kind of politics, but I'll just stick to sports, you have a big 5 of the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Germany, Spain. And here are their current, or FIBA, the International Basketball Federation, here are their current FIBA rankings. Spain is number 2, and they've been a power for about at least 20 years since I've been following basketball. France is 6, and they're rising. They'll be number 2 eventually. Italy is 12, and they have a very proud basketball history. Germany's 18, but then they have Dirk Nowitzki's from there, so they have arguably the best European basketball player of all time so far. So the other big nation, Great Britain, they're ranked 42nd. I think Montenegro is higher than them, and I don't even know. Slovenia is higher than that with 2 million people. So yeah, Great Britain's 42nd. It's just crazy how much worse they are at basketball than the other major European nations. I've asked this question before on Reddit and places like that, and I get some answers such as they don't have much of a basketball culture, which is kind of my question though. Like, why don't they have a basketball culture? And right across the channel, France has a pretty strong basketball culture. Places like Spain, Italy have even stronger basketball cultures. One possible theory I've heard is that the UK, their sports funding is pretty much based on Olympic, or how likely they are to medal in the Olympics, and they have 0% chance of probably ever winning a medal in the Olympics. Certainly not gold. That's never going to happen. So I guess that could be a reason. However, you would think constantly getting embarrassed by their frenemies, France, would make them, like give a little bit of care about it. But it might be. I think it might be too late in basketball to really catch up to those nations. It'd be nice though. The NBA plays games in London. They're probably going to get an NBA team this decade. So who knows? Maybe in 40 years they'll be a top 5 FIBA team. So my last question is, why has lacrosse not really spread across America that much, and why hasn't a pro league solidified yet? There's one main reason is because lacrosse is most popular in the northeast part of the country. Massachusetts, Boston, New York, upstate New York is really big, especially in the Native American reservations. New York City has a pretty good presence, especially Long Island has a massive presence out there. Philadelphia, also a big presence. Baltimore, huge Baltimore. DC, a bit, not quite as big as Baltimore, but still pretty big. However, New York's arguably the most influential speaking city on the planet, and certainly the most influential in the United States. DC, capital of the country, so is influential. Boston's super influential in sports. Celtics have fans everywhere. Red Sox have fans everywhere. Bruins have fans everywhere. Patriots have fans everywhere. Revolution exists. Okay. Sorry about that joke. And it just seems weird to me that lacrosse, I saw, it's been played at Division I level since like 1890. So 130 years it's been a major sport in the eastern part of the U.S. And as the people spread from the east to west and south. Seems like they didn't really take lacrosse with it. I think right now there are only 3 Division I lacrosse programs west of the Mississippi River. It's University of Denver, Regis, and University of Utah. And even most, like the vast majority are pretty much east of Ohio. Like there's 2 in Michigan. There's Notre Dame, Marquette, and DePaul. Maybe it's not like it's just crazy how concentrated the sport is in the Northeast after 130 years of existence. Compared to something like hockey, which had the original Big Six, I think it's Montreal. This is off the top of my head. Montreal, Toronto, New York, Boston, Detroit, and I'm gonna say Chicago. I don't know this, but that's kind of the same. Maybe not Chicago, but that's kind of the same area lacrosse is in. You know, the original. I guess you could say like if the pro lacrosse league started, I'll get to that in a second. But if I start a pro lacrosse league and I had 6 teams, I'd put a team in Boston. Sorry, team in Boston, a team in like middle to north New Jersey, a team as close to New York City as I can, like in either Yonkers or Brooklyn if I could. That'd be amazing. A team in the middle of Long Island, so that's 4. I just scratch that. I have a team in Boston, a team in New Jersey, right across the river from New York City, like Jersey City. Team in the middle of Long Island, team in Philadelphia, team in Baltimore, team in DC. So that would be like the original 6 cities of lacrosse. Those cities are massively influential. People from there have spread all across the United States, but lacrosse hasn't spread. Unlike hockey, which has spread, and I think maybe somewhat controversially, it has been pretty successful in the South and West. And for whatever reason, lacrosse hasn't done that. They started a pro league like 20 years ago. It's pretty much a massive failure. The Major League Lacrosse. There's another league, Premier Lacrosse League. They don't even have cities for those teams. They're just a traveling league. It's just such a weird thing about why lacrosse hasn't spread. It has so many advantages over hockey too. There's no really weather. Like hockey is mainly supposed to be a northern sports. Lacrosse doesn't have that. You can play that anywhere. Like you can play in Texas if it's not too blazing hot. You can play in the north during the summer. Like you can play it everywhere. There's less equipment needed for lacrosse than hockey or football, so that's not an issue. I guess it's just football, baseball, soccer. There's just too many outdoor sports, and hockey being indoor, only having to compete with basketball was able to spread. That's the only thing I can think of. But still, just if you would have told someone in 1890 that the biggest sports in 130 years would be football, they would say, okay, it makes a little bit of sense. Basketball, they wouldn't have heard of it. I don't think it existed then. Baseball, they would have said, yeah, it makes sense. Hockey, they'd be like, the Canadian sport, that's weird. Lacrosse, and then you tell them, hey, lacrosse is like the 11th, 12th, 10th most popular sport in America. Like, what? That seems weird. Sports that aren't even invented yet are going to pass it up. Yeah, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe if you want, and comment what sports doesn't make any sense to you, or maybe if you haven't answered any of these questions, please comment. Thanks, guys.